Okay, hey everybody, this is Brad with a market update. We've had quite a bit happening this week, so I wanted to make sure and get this video out to you right away. So, of course, the big news here, just to dive right into it, is the BlackRock news and Bitcoin soaring to new highs in the last 18 months with the speculation mounting for the Bitcoin spot ETF by BlackRock. So that's what's been driving these markets. But I'm going to unpack this a bit, kind of show you where we are on the technical basis, and we're going to dive into that in just a minute. I did want to cover some news here. This is an interesting article that by Arthur Hayes here, and he's talking about how it's now the time to bet on Bitcoin and what the trigger really will be. Interesting to always have other perspectives, and Arthur Hayes is one of the best out there. So the former founder of BitMEX, actually current former founder and currently not sure of his role there, but so he's been around for a while. Has some excellent articles. Bitcoin facing a watershed moment, it says, thanks to inflammatory cocktail of inflation spurred by war. And so a little different angle on this. We'll get to the BlackRock news in just a minute, and then of course dive into the charts. And but he's predicting still $1 million Bitcoin price, and so saying that's possible. I tend to say aim for the middle of where the range is of what people are saying. But of course, people like Kathy Wood and Michael Saylor also saying $1 million Bitcoin possible. His rationale here is just to skim through this: the global wartime infiltration. I'm sorry, inflation. It's been a long day to drive Bitcoin and gold prices. So what he means by this is that if the long-term U.S. Treasury bonds, offer no safety to investors, really, where are they going to go? They're going to seek out safer alternatives. Gold, and most importantly, Bitcoin will begin rising on true fears of the global wartime inflation. So I've highlighted some of this just so you don't have to go through all of it. But as part of the knockoff effects for Bitcoin, a $1 million BTC price tag is in play, something that has been repeated on social media this week. And of course, with this rally, people are speculating all kinds of levels where we can go. I'm going to show you my charts where I think we likely will go, where we could go, and where we might go. So stick around for that. And by the way, if you like this content, make sure to click the like button and subscribe. Turn on the little alert button so you're notified of these updates here on Max's channel. So this will come as a result of the so-called yield curve control. The ultimate move in controlling economics already been beginning to rear its head in Japan. And so, we'll go into all of the details there. But once everyone realizes the game we're playing, the Bitcoin crypto bull market will be in full swing. Finally, this is the trigger that he's seeing, and it's time to start rotating out of short-term U.S. Treasury bills and into crypto. And of course, showing this calendar here of where Bitcoin prices are. Typically, September is down on returns over the years, and in October things kick up, which we've seen and we're seeing right now. And also November's generally kind of a mixed bag, but I think we do head higher here. So anyway, let's keep going with this. Just wanted to touch on that first. The Hill reporting Bitcoin rises, BlackRock moves in, of course. And so what does that mean? Well, BlackRock, of course, the largest ETF and financial, albatross out there, and has a 99% approval rate with their ETFs in these other markets. So they're the big dog, the juggernaut in the space. So highly likely, if not probable, and probably priced in a little bit, although I don't think so. I think it's a essentially we're getting closer to what many are thinking is a done deal, but not so fast. There is a speculation and some, let's just say for a second, if we want to put it on our tin hat rather, that if BlackRock wanted to come in and scoop up more Bitcoin for their ETF at lower prices, maybe they sort of kick the can down the road and work with the SEC, maybe say, well, we're not really ready yet. And for whatever reason, the news euphoria gets pulled out, the air gets pulled out of the market, or some are saying, which we'll get to, that it's a sell the news type of event, right? We're all front running and trying to get ahead of this news. And then when it finally comes out, what if it's a sell the news type of event? So I think that's probably likely in the short term. But let's get there first. BlackRock seeding spot Bitcoin, a Bitcoin ETF with a little bit of money. With what seeding means, and so this as a financial giant gears up to launch the BTC Trust, and so kind of what that means is the seeding again is when they're putting a little bit of money, or they get a bank to start putting a little bit of money into the fund just so that there's something in there when they do go live. So as I have highlighted here in green, seeding an ETF is when initial funding is provided, typically by a bank or broker dealer, used in to purchase a few certain or creation units, in this case Bitcoin, in the exchange for ETF shares, which can be traded in the open market on day one. Right. So it goes on to say that seeding is typically not a lot of money, just enough to get the ETF going. So it's kind of like a soft opening in a restaurant where you don't have your grand opening on day one. You have a soft opening to make sure the meatballs are good and that people like the food. So it says, so I wouldn't read this as an, oh my God, BlackRock is buying a ton of Bitcoin all at once. But the fact that they're doing it and disclosing it shows another step in the process of launching. So that's what I will unpack in here, but useful to know. Now, what is this DTCC? The DTCC it's called a Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. And it's kind of works with these companies. I think it's related to NASDAQ. But the fact that they listed the planned BlackRock ETF token, not token, but the symbol. And then we'll look for it. It doesn't really matter what the symbol was. I posted about it on Twitter and to our groups this week. But the fact that it showed up there was the initial spike when people were saying, "Oh, right, this is happening." First we had Cointelegraph sort of a gaffe that they said that it was a done deal. The markets rallied. And then Cointelegraph said, or it was SEC said, no, this isn't true. Mark Yusko, by the way, we've done a recent great interview with on our upcoming crypto summit, which I'll tell you about in a moment. Max will be a speaker also, but Mark was saying that, hey, they probably weren't wrong. They were just too early. And then a few days later, the DTCC listed the BlackRock proposed symbol on their platform. And later they took it down, but it's back up there. And now some people are saying it's not indicative of approval, but many people believe that that is the next step and to head toward the ETF. And so let's see. And then, of course, I think BlackRock will be first. We've got GBTC, Fidelity, and a number of others lining up. But, all evidence points toward BlackRock will be first. So why was BlackRock delisted from the DTCC? An insider source reveals, well, in a surprising decision, they removed the BlackRock iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF symbol from the website for a short period of time, causing some profit taking and pullback. I propose that maybe it was the SEC saying, hey, you guys, hold on here. We're not ready yet. And they wanted to look at it a little closer. And it looks like that is what happened. The ETF was it was on the eligibility list. And with all the excitement, pushed the hot prices to the highest level this year. But the listing led to speculation that BlackRock and other Bitcoin spot ETF candidates may soon receive approval. And then it said, as I mentioned, the BlackRock's ETF application was suddenly delisted and relisted hours later. And here it says the SEC explained temporary delisting, as I was saying, was intentional, was done to conduct additional research due to the huge attention the listing had received. I had a sort of, I guess, a prophetic moment there because that's what I said a few days ago. Probably the SEC came in and say, hold on, guys, this is moving the markets way too fast. Let's make sure this is kind of ready to move forward on that next step. So it's been relisted. However, the DTCC spokesperson said basically that the listing is not indicative of any pending regulatory or other approval process with respect to a particular ETF fund. Appearing on the list merely is an indication that the intermediary bank, et cetera, that the DTCC may process the transaction at an unspecified date in the future following SEC approval. That is sort of key language there. And so we want to point that out, but pretty much we're heading in that direction, although it's not a done deal yet. So anyway, it's also worth noting that the BlackRock ETF application had already been on the DTCC website since last August. So, it's a bit of mania, and we want to be a little bit careful here with all of these news items. At any rate, the spot Bitcoin ETF, back on the DTCC page, as we said, So but essentially, it's one again surfaced, leading many to question whether this was due to a technical glitch, as we talked about, and sort of unpacked out already. But we can see Bitcoin's a bit overextended here. I'm going to pull up my own charts in a moment. Trying to get through the news here so we can dive into some charts, and I'll talk about the crypto future of crypto summit, by the way, which is launching tomorrow, and I'll tell you how you can get access to this and register for free for that. So anyway, the Bitcoin ETF approval will be will it be a sell the news event as I propose? And so this analyst is saying that is it a sell the news event? I won't exactly call him an analyst. Peter Schiff, love him or hate him, is a Bitcoin hater, and so he tweeted, he said basically suggesting the approval could mark a peak in optimism. And he said, he tweeted, how many times can the Bitcoin rally on the same ETF rumor? So I think that there's some validity to that, but let's wait and see when the approval happens. And we're assuming that happens, we should see a fast push up. Some are saying 40K. I think we could see even higher numbers. And I think I'll show you the charts where I think we go next. Now that we've closed above that all important 32,000 level, I think it's a pretty fast move to 48K to 50K. So bear with me here. And let's dive into that too. A little bit of news on the Ripple case. Essentially, they won, but it's not really doing much in terms of what that means. So we won't dive into that. Just a quick look at crypto panic here. I've already pulled up the better news items here. Of course, we have a BlackRock also getting fined $2.5 million for something totally unrelated. So the SEC intensifies regulatory scrutiny with a hefty $2.5 million fine on BlackRock. But that has nothing to do with anything related to crypto or Bitcoin. So it's just kind of, it's interesting timing how they released that around the time when there's positive news about the Bitcoin spot ETF potentially happening. So I won't go through this, but essentially, it's for another market, another ETF that they had previously. Okay, so anyway, the BlackRock iShares Bitcoin Trust, essentially the IBTC, is that symbol. So you want to keep an eye out for IBTC. When that does get released, that will be what you can potentially buy into. All right, so so for tomorrow, basically, we are kicking off the Future of Crypto Summit, and Max is a speaker. He's the /2 speaker when we kick this off here tomorrow. So if you'd like to find out more about that, you can go and register free at moonstream.io/Max Summit. And we've got some incredible topics here. Max is going to talk about the hardest money in history, using Bitcoin to destroy inflation. He's going to talk about discovering the transformative potential of crypto. Really good interview I did with Max. That's been a lot of fun. Also, we had covered the art of buying the dip, taking profits at the right time, Dirk de Bruin. So just a huge lineup of great topics here. The wallets, we're going to talk about wallets. We're going to talk about the hidden agenda by central bank digital currencies, international dual citizenship secrets, where you can get dual passports for various reasons, even all the way down into the weeds with how to run your own Bitcoin node and the benefits of that, building more freedom through Bitcoin, and protecting your wealth and family from an economic meltdown. Another great interview that Mike did, my business partner. Steve, we talk about preparing yourself for future crypto regulation. Very important to be on the lookout for what's coming, what's likely coming, and how to prepare for that. Great interview with Mark Yusko. This is Anthony Pompliano's partner over at Morgan Creek Capital. We talk about owning crypto to make sure that you don't run out of money in the future. And he talks about investing in innovation, the risk of owning cash, and why now may be the best time ever to buy and own crypto. You can see all these topics here again at moonstream.io/Max Summit. So I won't go through all of these, but we cover trading bots, market cycles, determining market direction, building wealth in the next bull run, wallet hacking, buying and selling with Bitcoin. So you can see just a huge amount of topics here. I do a session where I'm interviewed on protecting crypto trades from catastrophic losses. So you can see that. Pump and dumps, leaving a legacy, really how to set up your crypto so you can leave that to your family and in the proper way. The old hit by a bus scenario. Are you prepared for if something happens, and you can easily leave that to your family? So we can see here just a ton of great 27 different speakers, and even including the future of crypto payments. I interview the CMO over at BitPay. That's they're innovating a lot there. And even from the beginner topics, if you're brand new, explaining blockchain to grandma. And last but not least, an excellent interview I did with Dr. Demel Zahayes. the chief economist over at Cointelegraph, crypto-friendly IRA strategies. I learned a lot here, essentially how you can grow your wealth tax-free, actively trading through your IRA, your Roth IRA, and through an active trading platform, which we won't recommend any, but it's one of the major ones. Okay, so with that in mind, again, just go to moonstream.io/max summit. You can register for free. It starts tomorrow and it goes the next 3 days, so you won't want to miss that. All right, so let's dive into the charts here. I was looking at this today. This is the DXY here, and what's interesting here is, I'd like to look for trend channels on these on all charts. So we have this nice, this sort of a very clear upward trend channel on the DXY. Now, the DXY, if you don't know, it runs. It's opposite of Bitcoin and crypto, so it's an inverse typically. So as the whole last year we were going down in prices and sideways, especially since sort of July, we've been going up on the dollar index. Now, I did sort of forecast we'd hit this 107 level and pull back, which we did. We came exactly back to where I thought it would be. And since we're putting in lower highs on the DXY, or we were, that coincides with the push up in Bitcoin that we've been seeing. Now, this is a bit of a surprise for me, by the way. I thought, looking at this today, I thought we'd reject and see the DXY start going lower. We are pushing back up a little bit, but as long as it's still a lower high, we should be in good shape. And I'll be looking to still see this new downward trend channel maintain itself. That's really what we want to see. We don't want to see the DXY pushing higher to new highs, because that would sort of lead toward more pressure, selling down in Bitcoin. One does not cause the other. They are correlated, and sometimes they decouple a little bit. So anyway, interesting to follow that, the DXY. Keep an eye on those levels. Here on the monthly chart of Bitcoin, though, very bullish candle here on the monthly basis. Nice. This is a 3 inside up pattern, which usually leads to more follow through to the upside. And so what's important here is, we had this 30K level we were trying to get across and get above the last 6 months or so, finally above that 30K level. The line in the sand for me was at 32,000 resistance and support. So we're back above that. About a week left in the trading month. Really want to see this close above 32K to keep that momentum going, and really think this goes higher. If we start to pull back and get below 32K, I'm a little concerned. If we get back below and close below 30K, then I'm going to be a little more concerned in these markets. But from what I'm seeing here, we've got a little bit of, we're not even that oversold yet on this oscillator that we have. And so we're going to keep that in mind. But we did sort of nail this bottom here with this early reversal indicator that we have internally in that big bullish engulfing candle back here in January. What I would suggest, though, and one of the things that is an old trading, I won't call it a trick, but something that I've noticed, and typically on these large vector candles, the large candle moves, you do see price come back and retest the midpoint. So here back in January, we pushed up largely. You see in the March candle, it came down, touched the midpoint almost exactly, actually it was exact, and then pushed back higher. And we've seen that a number of times in the past. And so this big candle here, if we did come back to 30K and then bounce off of it, I wouldn't be surprised. That would be retesting that midpoint of this vector candle here. And this is where the market makers are really moving price into a new area, a new zone. Okay, so with that, we'll go to another monthly chart real quick. What I'm encouraged by, as I was sort of wondering, was this a bull flag about to play out, or were we seeing a head and shoulders pattern? Which you can see, I'll get to the weekly chart. But since we've pushed higher, that's now invalidated the right shoulder that was forming. So I think the signs are there. We go higher. And what's interesting here is the bull flag, this macro bull flag. See this flagpole, the flag, and then a breakout, which we've seen puts us at potentially around 200,000. So these are my 3 scenarios for where we could go. 100,000, just over 100,000, with that's the Fibonacci projection from the market cycle high down to the low. So that would be the 1.618 projection. And I think that's reasonable. And that we hit 100,000 this bull run, I think that's reasonable. The maybe scenario is 158,000. That's the 2.618. And what's interesting, though, is that 3.618 Fibonacci extension puts us right exactly at this bull run, or the bull flag projection. Now, this does not mean that we do that, but it's certainly interesting that it overlaps that exactly. And with the scenarios, and I'm going to talk about in a minute, we could certainly get there. Actually, let me jump ahead to this because we're on this topic. So this is a weekly chart of Bitcoin. You can see I have a bars pattern here, which kind of shows how we can at least get to that 2.618. Now, you might ask, where is this pattern coming from? It's this exact pattern back here when we began the rally in 2020, end of 2020 into 2021. So if you use the bars pattern tool and you just kind of grab it like that to there, this is that pattern that I used. Okay, so we see that exact overlap. This doesn't mean it will be exact, but it's certainly interesting. We're back above this 21-week moving average, which has been a pretty interesting, line in the sand here. When we're above it, we're bullish. When we're below it, it's bearish. So finally back above that. And this is probably what I would expect to see. We come up to the golden pocket here around 50K, pause, then push higher, get up to the 100K, pull back. Those round numbers, price loves to pull back from there, and then we could push higher up to that 158, 160K region. I have it labeled as 155K. It's anywhere in here. So that's the path to 100K and beyond. And I'll turn off this early reversal indicator because here's how this could be driven. Okay, really good session for you here today, guys. So this is my path to 100K, potential path to 100K Bitcoin in 2023 and 2024. Let's change this to, this is going to be 24. So I thought there was an outlier that we could get here in 2023. I don't think so now. That would be a 2024 target. I think we could hit 50K this year though. All right, so we'll show you that in a minute. So here are the steps, the scenarios that are contributing or could contribute to the 100K Bitcoin in the early part here of 2024. So BlackRock, which we talked about, and the Fidelity ETF approval, BlackRock probably first, Fidelity likely second. GBTC, the SEC, the courts have basically told the SEC, and again, reaffirmed that recently this Monday, saying the SEC, you've got to make a decision here and give these guys an answer and tell them why. So, we're moving forward. That's a very important ruling that the courts are overruling the SEC and forcing them to review the applications and let them know why, if it's going to be not approved. So we want to keep an eye out for that. The second term, or the second factor, is QE money printing to pay down the U.S. debt. Have you seen the real-time money clock? It's just spinning like a slot machine. And the bottom line is we can't afford our own debt on the interest on our own debt. So at some point, there are really two options. And that is that basically we say, hey, it was a good try. The United States is over, end of the republic. We gave it a good go. Let's, revolution time. Let's start over. And that's not going to happen, of course. So the option two is we start printing a lot of money. And that's of course, what's going to happen. We'll print our way out of it. But as we saw in 2020 and 2021, the quantitative easing, all that money flooding the system, always affects risk on assets like crypto and high risk tech stocks. The money goes there and the markets fly. So I think that's also going to contribute to a massive bull market here once things really firmly get going. Also, bank failures, there's bank runs in China. Bank failures are still a high probability of more bank failures here, because essentially what happened is, the government kind of screwed over the banks. And then back in COVID, they said, hey, buy all these treasuries at these low interest rates. And, we're not going to raise interest rates. So you'll be able to afford these, no problem. Well, then, of course, we've raised interest rates higher than we have at any point in history, faster than any point in history, not higher. But essentially now those banks are underwater on these long-term treasuries and bonds. So, there's trillions in unrecognized debt on the books of these banks because the government basically screwed them again and saying we won't raise interest rates, go buy these bonds to help us out of this COVID mess. And then what happened? They raised interest rates in the highest rate in history. So, going to be some other shoes to fall there potentially. But what would that lead to? The fear of the banks is going to drive more money, as Arthur Hayes was saying, into safer assets like Bitcoin, and that it won't be devalued or can't be manipulated to depreciate. Michael Saylor's famous argument for MicroStrategy and why they're planning and talking about raising an additional 750 million in a common stock offering on MicroStrategy to buy more Bitcoin. Okay, I was watching a video of him this morning where he astutely was talking about this. He basically said that MicroStrategy is a software company, and we make good money. It's a stable business. We use that money to pay the debt service on our loans, which we used to buy Bitcoin, and the rest we're going to use to buy more Bitcoin. Well, MicroStrategy, of course, has become kind of a surrogate, an ETF of its own, if you will, for Bitcoin because they hold so much of it. And he's not backing down. I think he's going to be right in the end. I think there's a day we might see him as the richest person in the world when all this plays out. So we'll see if I'm right. Anyway, back to Bitcoin here on this weekly chart. So what you can kind of see the scenario, I had removed it, but I was wondering here, was this a head and shoulder pattern that was playing out? And it was, it was very not very high head. So that was, was either a double top, but if we saw a right shoulder a reject here, and then rolled down and rolled over, then we'd be in trouble. Now, technically on a weekly basis, if we sell off here by the end of this week and get back below 32K, we'll have a big topping tail. And then that head and shoulders pattern, I guess could play out, but I don't see that happening. There's too much enthusiasm about the ETF, and I think that I think it's go time. But new information equals new decision. Just keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, this is the path that I think we're in. But whoops, just move this back up here and more like this. So I think that's the play here. If we do get down below here, the Bitcoin pullback zone, this will be a place to DCA, dollar cost average, back end. There's still a CME gap a little bit lower, so we just have to see it get a little bit more data. But the end of this week will confirm and we can even widen this upward trend channel so that it's a nice upward trend channel. That's what we want to see. We want to see that continue, and we want to see it continue on here all the way to 48K, 52K. Where did I get that number? I have it on another chart that I'll show you, but again, that was the market cycle high back here at 69K, down to the market cycle low. And let's see, I need to change my to a different template on my Fibonacci's. I'm looking for the golden pocket. All right, so the golden pocket is that 0.65 to 0.68 level. And I want to make sure I've got it right there, the right level there. And it puts us right around 48K, between 48K and 50K. So you see that? So 49 to 50K. So those round numbers love to get hit. I say we push up to 49, 50K, and then we see a rollover, a little pullback in the channel, but that's okay as long as we maintain this upward trajectory. So I think this is what plays out, guys. These are my targets. So, if this ETF gets approved over the coming weeks, I think we push quickly up to 50K. So that's my projection, and we'll see if I'm right. Also, our proprietary indicators give me all green buy signals here on these various time frames. And so we had an early reversal indicator back here. Many of you are familiar with these. We had our trend strength indicator go above 20 on the weekly, and our signal line also turning green. So the more of these that line up, the more bullish I am, because I trust these, and we've seen them play out time and time again. All right, what else can we look at here? I want to just pull up the bull market support band. It's a little hard to see with all of this on here, so I'll enlarge this. But the bull market support band, that when we are above this, just turn off this ERI here. We can see that, when we're above it, we're in a very bullish kind of environment, and we can really rally. When we're below the bull market support band, usually it's 8 to 12 weeks below that. So we've seen that here, so down here, and it got above it, then really the bear market all the way down. We did drop down below it here, so that was a bit concerning. It's kind of like quicksand. So we were down here for about 8 weeks, but now we're back above the quicksand. That's bullish right there. And also we'll look at the Ichimoku and the EMA ribbon here. I like it when the EMA ribbon gets nice and tight and we get back above it. Right, see that nice launch pad to push prices higher. So definitely like to see the EMA ribbon and the Ichimoku. We're still in the cloud on a weekly basis, but looking pretty good on a daily basis. So I don't use this as much, until we're firmly in a trending market. But there's some room to pull back here on the daily basis. So let's move on here. I want to kind of get into some detail, and important to look at the overall market cap. I've got a mixed radar here, so I'll turn that off. But here on the daily basis, there's room for some pullback, I think, in the short term. Let me grab the right line here, and at this level here on the total market cap. But I do recommend watching total market cap, because in the past, these big numbers have been really important. Here's my friend Bart Simpson. We were, sure enough, we had a little Bart Simpson pullback there. So that's why he's there. If you guys like, know the Bart Simpson indicator, that's a good indicator when it's going to go lower. But what I call your attention to this 3 trillion mark, how many of you realize that the total market cap pushed up exactly to $3 trillion? Exactly to the nose. And that was also when the spot futures ETF was announced. Now, it is true that on these big announcements, often it's a sell the news type of event. The big difference, however, with that announcement is people thought, hey, Bitcoin ETF, this is great. The retail public didn't realize that futures are settled in cash on the CME, not in Bitcoin. So what that meant was, instead of that entity having to go buy and sell Bitcoin on the open market, they weren't. It's a derivative product that's settled in cash. Okay, so that was a nice fake out. And if you followed any of my videos on the Wyckoff distribution patterns, this was a textbook Wyckoff pattern, where this was the accumulation zone. They pushed up here to the real high, and then back again here. And then this was the up thrust after distribution, sort of the fake out. And this is where all the smart money was dumping. Okay. And then we saw this sell down, and we came down, bounced up again to this 2 trillion, just above 2 trillion level. This here is right at 2 trillion. So a little bit of a fake out there, but again, these round numbers. So 1 trillion really needs to hold. And we did dip down below that recently, but fortunately it was a fake out. That's my AI there to get rid of that. And it was a bit concerning last few days. Last week, we came down right here and dipped below that $1 trillion level temporarily. And that was a bit of a nail biter. However, this market's very famous for fake outs. So fortunately, we bounced back above that. And now we're pushing up to around 1.25 trillion, kind of a triple top here. What I would imagine is that it'll pull back a bit and pull back to some of its EMAs, exponential moving averages. So, and then head higher. We don't need to get into the weeds on that. So with that here, let's kind of dive into some charts of Bitcoin. But I did talk about this briefly. This is a weekly chart again. And just to make you aware of that CME gap. And so even though we have our signals are green and giving a buy signal, I'll clean up this chart a little bit here, because just to get rid of the noise. But what I love about this chart here, just to zoom out, is, we have this little trend channel. There's Bart Simpson again. Hey, Mark, let's put him where he belongs. That's where he belongs. And so I love this little upward trending channel here. These typically are great. And until they reverse, we blew up above that. But notice how this launched right off of the 21 and 50 week exponential moving averages. I love when I see a candle sitting right on the 50-week or 50-day moving average, especially with a bottoming tail here. I call it the rocket on the launch pad. And we have a sort of a whole write-up on that indicator. But at any rate, I'm not here to talk about that. We pushed up higher, though. Great looking chart. I do think it's due to come back down. One of my best indicators here is this modified Bollinger Band. And so when it pushes up and touches the top of this modified Bollinger Band, and what I mean by that is, if you take a standard Bollinger Band and you change the settings from 2 standard deviations to a 3, I'm not sure why it's not pulling up the settings for me here. There we go. Change that to a 3. It works much better for crypto because it's more volatile. And invariably, when it's pushing at the top of that or getting ahead of it, it usually pulls back. It's not too far above this right now, but we've seen this with other coins. When it gets above that 3rd standard deviation, usually pulls back. So anyway, I'm looking for, maybe a bit of a pullback here on the weekly time frame here. Let's look at a daily and just see what we can see there on a slightly different chart. Well, let me see. I'm going to get to this next. And but this is that daily chart again. Probably when I see this much space above the 21-day EMA, usually it comes back down or goes sideways a bit. So a little bit of short-term pullback on the daily, and then I think the weekly takes off again. So all good news. What this is here, this is another bars pattern. And what this is a clone of is, again, that prior bullish pattern back in here. And so we saw that in the other slide, but that's where I get these possible moves. But it does correspond very nicely to that past slide there, where it pushes up right to that 49.50K. Okay, again, this is that bars pattern from over here. If we were to do that one more time, I may not get it exact because if I'm going to rush it here, but boom, and then we have that kind of a deal. And actually, you know what? I think that was, I want to make sure you guys are following, not losing you. It was, I think I grabbed it from back in here. We'll do that one more time. I don't remember here. How did that happen? Something like this. But you can see how it's a similar type of pattern, purely speculation, by the way. But we did get it right on this push higher. And now what I think is if we do get a pullback, we push much higher and we go right up to the 50K level. So that's what I'm seeing, you guys. And with that, why don't we come back to a daily and let's take a look at what's moving. We'll turn off some of these indicators just to give you an overview of this. And then if you haven't already, just please go register for this. This is a free event. And we're not sending out recordings on this. There is an option to get your hands on the recordings, but you just go to moonstream.io/max summit. So I'll just point that out one more time. And what we can do here is look into some coins just to see what is looking good. Probably you guys want to see Ethereum. So let's take a look at this. ETH had a nice bounce here. I do love the fact that this 21-day is crossing the 50-day exponential moving average, one of my favorite indicators. Again, though, I think it's probably due for a pullback on that Bollinger Band. See, that's an example of when it got above that third standard deviation Bollinger Band, pulled back in. What I'd love to see on ETH here is a bit of a pullback to support those EMAs and then like that. So I think that's more than likely will happen there. And then the weekly, I think, is looking pretty good too. It's back above the 50-week exponential moving average. I do like that. So ETH looking pretty strong here. If we were to kind of skim through these, if you guys want to look at anything in particular, put it down below. But one of the ones I like a lot is Chainlink. Had this nice, long, wide consolidation here for weeks and weeks and weeks, better part almost over a year consolidating. I call this gas in the tank. The more length of time it's sideways and finding some price equilibrium, the farther it can go on the upside. So Chainlink looking good with a breakout there, has a 6x potential there at least. Another one I really like is Compound. Now, if you look at Compound and you look at its potential back to its old high, this is huge. It's 18x on Compound. And you can see that from current prices back to the old highs, which Compound, great project. Very likely it will do that. Not financial advice, do your own research, but hey, there's one that you might want to keep an eye on there. What else do we have? Some others that I've been following here that you guys might have some interest in. Filecoin's a really interesting one. Our friend Arthur Hayes recently talked about it. I recommended it recently in one of our groups. And the reason I like Filecoin is that it has 76x potential. Now, this is where we were recommending it. It's gone up a bit already, but this, what it is, it's a competitor and a decentralized version of AWS, essentially. Okay, and that's Amazon's cloud storage. Now, the reason that is likely to go higher is that all these AI projects need a lot of storage space, and they're not as inclined to put that on a centralized platform like Amazon. So these decentralized cloud storage systems like Filecoin, like Storage is another one. I would keep an eye on these. Arthur Hayes had great things to say about this as well. You might want to go look that up. There's a little bit of alpha for you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed that. It's my way of saying thank you for coming to watch this here and to checking out the future of crypto summit. So that's all we have time for. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the summit here again. That's moonstream.io/max summit. And of course, it's with permission from Max. He's a keynote speaker. So on day one, so that he's going to be on tomorrow. Make sure that you don't miss that. You can see that interview all day tomorrow, along with Dirk and some of these people pictured here. And then there's 3 days of this all the way through Saturday. We did some excellent interviews. Really, I learned a lot. I know you're going to love it. So we'll look forward to seeing you there. Go register now at moonstream.io/max summit, and we'll see you there. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks so much, and I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you did like this content, make sure to like and share, and we'll see you next time.